It's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
It's time for the biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, on top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport. Let's join the team for the biggest show in the world of sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.
It's a very good evening, Zimbabwe. It's a Friday, Fire Friday here on ZiFM Sport, and hopefully wherever you are, the fire is burning equally. If it isn't, we're going to throw a few logs on to make the embers burn much brighter here on ZiFM Sport. So you tuned into the right station, ZiFM Stereo, my station, your station. The team is here: Mike, Chris, Sean, Barry, and of course Alois Bunjira. On the home front today, Zimbabwe's campaign at the COSAFA Women's Championship got off to a false start on Wednesday when the Mighty Warriors fell to Tanzania, and Mighty Warriors coach Sitheteliwe Sibanda has blamed the loss on poor fitness levels. In international sports news, we go stateside for an American sport update, where at the halfway point of the NFL season, American football pundits have installed the Tom Brady-led Tampa Bay Buccaneers as legitimate Super Bowl contenders.
In Around the World in 60, we take off in the United Arab Emirates, where Aishan Kishan's attacking 55 and 4 wickets by Jasprit Bumrah powered Mumbai Indians to their 6th Indian Premier League final with a 57-run win over Delhi Capitals. In France, Rafael Nadal made 1,001 ATP Tour wins after the Spaniard beat Jordan Thompson to make it through to the quarterfinals of the Paris Masters. And down under, ahead of the 4th Bledisloe Cup test tomorrow, Wallabies skipper Michael Hooper admitted his team were in a dark place this week after being thrashed by the All Blacks, but insisted the scoreline didn't tell the full story.
Straight after our international sports news, we'll give you our play of the day as we get the party started right here on your favorite show. And of course, Barry always something that you can dance to and something that you can party to, especially on Fire Friday. And then it's the beautiful game, European football, the gift that keeps on giving. And this weekend, it's giving us 4 crackerjack matches in the big leagues of Europe, starting in Germany, where it's Der Klassiker. Borussia Dortmund will host champions Bayern Munich at the Westfalen Stadion. In the Premier League, Manchester City will entertain champions Liverpool at the Etihad Stadium. In Italy, Serie A, Juventus will look to continue their push up the table when they travel to Lazio on Sunday. And in Spain, Barcelona will be hoping they can move into the top half of the La Liga table when they host in form Real Betis.
First and foremost, our power play here on Fire Friday. This one's by AJR. It's called Bang.
The Warriors, the Chevrons, the Cheetahs, the Mighty Warriors, and the Sables. From the pool to the track to the field, we are Team Zimbabwe. The Home Front. Local sports news and analysis.
You can catch us on all the social media platforms at ZiFM Sport. Let's interact. Let's talk about your opinion as to what's happening in the world of sport. You can also follow us in our individual capacities at Mike Madoda, at Chris Midzi, at Gazaman14, that's Alois Bunjira, at Sean Tafirenyika, and I'm on at Barry Manandi. Right, let's get on to the home front, where we're talking women's football, and Zimbabwe's campaign at the COSAFA Women's Championship got off to a false start on Wednesday when the Mighty Warriors fell to Tanzania. And Mighty Warriors coach Sitheteliwe Sibanda has blamed the loss on poor fitness levels. Sibanda said the Mighty Warriors defended for large periods of the game, and with their low fitness level, it was hard to contain the Tanzanians, who were fitter. We caught up with a friend of the show, Grant Mitchell, who is a guru in the industry of sports rehabilitation and sports performance. Now, we asked Grant how realistic it was to expect the Mighty Warriors to perform at optimum level at the COSAFA Women's Championship.
The challenge for our Mighty Warriors going into a regional tournament will be probably based on 2 limiting factors. One, 4 weeks is just not enough. If we look at the volume of work that takes place in a 90-minute match at international level, and then you link that to the amount of training that needs to be done, and we sort of putting that on the back of a 4-week training program. It's not enough for that level. So we can only assume that the squad was doing their individual programs outside of that 4-week window, and that it's enough to carry us through. And then the second limiting factor is undoubtedly top level game time. That match fitness is it's a massive influencer, both positive and negative. Positive if you've had it, and negative if you haven't at a high level. And internal training games are not enough in terms of the intensity and quality. So I can only hope that the opposition has been in the same position as us and hasn't had sufficient preparation time, match practice, and that the competition field is now level and that we do well.
Z.
Now, Mike, Grant pointing out there the fact that in truth we have to hope that our opposition had as diabolical preparations as we did in order for us to be at the same fitness levels, because we can't expect much in truth, just in summary.
Hardly surprising, Barry, that the mighty Warriors underperformed, and the one thing that went against us in the match versus Tanzania is the very fact that Tanzania has been one of the African countries that has remained largely open throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. So their players, whether male or female, have had plenty of game time. They've had plenty of opportunity to train, to exercise, to get up to speed and to be fit. And it showed in the game versus the mighty Warriors. Our mighty Warriors ranked higher than Tanzania, perform a lot better than Tanzania in continental competitions and in the qualifying competitions that we have for AFCON, etc. But in this game, Barry, we were outplayed by a team that we would normally expect to beat. And that's largely as a result of the fact that the Tanzanians were much fitter. They were better conditioned than our girls. And you and I quipped, Barry, that listen, those uniforms looked a bit too full for professional footballers. And so that was just on visual observation.
Very diplomatically put, Michael. The kids were looking full. Draw what conclusions you will from that statement. Nonetheless, Chris, you got to say, yes, fitness is a consideration and is the optimum consideration. Why? Because the next point that Sitetelwe raised was the issue that there was rustiness in terms of being tactically aware and also technically sound. Now, you can't be either of those two if you're not fit.
If you're not fit and if you haven't been playing football, if you take a look at the break that some of our players have had, our players haven't played in any kind of competition possibly for the last, I'm going to even go as far as 12 months. And because of that, your tactical awareness is not going to be where it needs to be. And it's incredibly disappointing, especially for the mighty Warriors, who traditionally do well in the COSAFA Women's Championship, getting to semi-finals, finals, and even winning the COSAFA Championship as well. So it's going to be disappointing for them, because had they had adequate preparation, had football had some sort of resurgence in Zimbabwe, especially the women's side as well, then we would have put up better results. This is a competition we do well in, and I'm extremely disappointed on behalf of the mighty Warriors, who would have performed well if they had proper preparation.
Alois, all of those conditions foregoing, it doesn't also help that the fact that the technical team of the Mighty Warriors decided that this was the tournament to start blooding in a new crop of Mighty Warriors. And they blended them with some experience. Of course, we saw that Rutendo Madzimai Makore is part of that squad. But in truth, a lot of new faces in that team. So to then get the coalescence and the combinations going in a new team at the same time, a team that's unfit, there was a lot going against us, matey.
Yeah, there's a lot going against us, very 100%, because even those ones that have been blooded in, they're also not fit. So you can actually look at the situation whereby the new players are also not fit. They will not represent themselves well. They won't acquit themselves well. It's unfair for the new players being blooded in as well, because when you look at it, you want to impress, you want to stake your claim in the team, and then you get in there unfit. How do you prove yourself that you're good enough? It's very difficult. So I feel sorry for everybody. No matter how talented you can be, you cannot perform at your optimum best if you are not fit. Fitness level is the max. That's what we need. You can be as talented. 70% of it is supposed to be fitness. Talent is a given.
Yep. Talent is a given indeed, and you need to be fit in order to deliver at the highest level. So going forward, Chris, we got a bit of a tough one, a doozy, in that we're next playing Botswana. Botswana themselves, a bit better preparations again than Zimbabwe. We'll have to do a lot to get a result out of this one.
We're going to have to do a lot to get a result here, and that goes from the technical team itself in terms of their preparations, in terms of the team that's already out in Port Elizabeth for the competition. It's going to be a lot of work. Botswana traditionally is a team that we can say we're on par with and we compete with. So going into this, it's just going to be about, I don't know what kind of tactics you can come up with for a team that's not fit, but they're going to need to work around Botswana quite a bit.
One of the tactics might be to keep the ball, Mike? Because if we manage to keep the ball, retain the ball, then there's less work to be done. But I think against Tanzania, we saw a little bit less of the ball than we ordinarily do, so we had a lot of work to get through.
For me, Barry, I'm willing to give the Mighty Warriors a free pass in this tournament. I'm not going to be realistically expecting them to win the tournament. So even in the game versus Botswana, I think I'd rather be looking at how the new players that have been blooded into the squad are going to be performing. I'm going to be taking a look at how the team is shaping up, the tactical awareness of the players and aspects like that, rather than me necessarily putting any pressure on the Mighty Warriors to result and win the tournament, because the physical conditioning that they are in, Barry, does not necessarily support the belief or the idea that they can go on and win this tournament. If they do manage to win it, if they do manage to get really good results and go on, it's a bonus. But it's still early in their return to football, their return to action, for us to actually put any expectations around them winning the COSAFA women's title.
Perhaps as administrators, we have let the team down because we could have brought football back a little bit earlier, but that's another subject for another day. Now, remember, only the top teams in Group A, Group B, and Group C, where we are found, qualify for the semi-finals. There are 3 teams in each group, but Group A, of course, has the 4 teams. Remember, our result in Group C on Wednesday was Tanzania 1-0 over Zimbabwe. Our next match is on the 9th of November. We take on Botswana.
Hi, my name is Runi Shamba, Mighty Warriors Super Striker. You're listening to ZiFM Sports.
Right, let's get you up to speed with what's happening on the local sports scene, starting with the cricket, where Zimbabwe national cricket team's limited overs captain Chamuchi Baba says he's confident of returning to form soon after he struggled through the one-day international series against Pakistan, where the hosts ran out 2-1 winners in Rawalpindi. Chibaba managed just 19 runs in 3 innings, falling for a duck in the third and final one-day international, which Zimbabwe won via a super over. The Chevrons now turn their attention to a 3-match T20 series with Pakistan, which begins tomorrow with the first T20 international. In golf news, Zimbabwe professional golfer Scott Vincent is making history as he is taking part in the European Tour Aphrodite Hills Cyprus Showdown at the Aphrodite Hills Resort in Pampas, Cyprus. Vincent is the first local player to play in the new format on the European Tour, which was introduced in this week's tournament. The Cyprus Showdown is breaking new ground with a first-of-its-kind format. We'll wrap it up with news out of the Castle Louder Premier Soccer League. The resumption of domestic football this year has been thrown into further doubt amid reports that FIFA is yet to engage government and other football stakeholders on the US $1 million, I must add, needed for the proposed bio-bubble concept to kick off and succeed. Domestic football, which has been on hold since March when authorities imposed a national lockdown to contain the deadly COVID-19 pandemic, is expected to restart early next month with a 2-week mini-league tournament. Although government through the sports ministry green-lighted the resumption of football under strict COVID-19 regulations, it has refused to commit itself to funding the tournament, saying FIFA and its affiliates would foot the bill.
Hi, this is Mike Madod, and you can catch me and the team for all the latest breaking news out of the world of sport, local as well as international, on your favorite station, my station, your station, ZiFM. We are Z-Team on ZiFM Sport.
Z International Sports News Roundup, where the world comes out to play.
Don't forget, we've got the beautiful game in the second half of the show. Two big games in Europe. Manchester City hosting Liverpool in the English Premier League. And then in Germany's Der Klassiker, Borussia Dortmund entertaining champions Bayern Munich at the Westfalen Stadium. But before we get there, let's go stateside where the eyes of the world have been focused on, not necessarily on the sport, but largely on what's happening in the US election. It's Trump versus Biden, almost as big as those two matches I talked about earlier. And I just want to hear from you guys, starting with you, Chris. Trump, he is teetering on the edge, isn't he?
Oh yeah, Trump is showing some crazy tantrums on Twitter. He's going absolutely off. There was a period in which his team sort of tried to stop him from having the press conferences, but he still has his Twitter account, so he's still going off.
He's still going off. Barry, Biden, something of a surprise. I think he surprised the world, hasn't he? A bit like Leicester City a few years back.
Yes, but look, I think the odds on Biden were a little bit shorter than the ones on Leicester City because it was a tight race. It was always going to be a tight race, and inevitably, usually the sitting president usually gets a second term, but Trump has had he's divided opinion massively, and you can tell by the voting. It's still a tight race, but in truth, he divided opinion to a point whereby the liberals and the Democrats had to come out and vote him out.
Well, one of America's biggest sports star and a player that doesn't divide opinion about his status in the game is Tom Brady, who's widely acknowledged as the greatest of all time. He's left the New England Patriots. He's now with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And that is the team, of course, that is owned by the Glazers, who own Manchester United. But whereas Manchester United are going south, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are looking up. And now pundits like Stephen A. Smith say that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers already have a Super Bowl caliber roster, and the recent addition of star wide receiver Antonio Brown puts them over the top. Let's hear from Stephen A. Smith.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to the Super Bowl. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to the Super Bowl. That's what the hell AB means. Now, do they need him per se? Listen, they've got an embarrassment of riches already. Chris Godwin's back. Mike Evans is there. Gronk is playing like Gronk over the last couple of games. You got to believe you. Is O.J. Howard out for the season? I don't think he is. I mean, listen, when you look at them with Fournette at your running back spot, with Ronald Jones as well, the reality of the situation is you add Antonio Brown to the mix. He's better than all of them. He's better than all of them. And they're damn good. And then you got Brady flat out balling. And let me tell you something right now. And this defense that Todd Bowles is running. Oh, my Lord. These brothers can ball.
Z.
Chris, the NFL is now at the halfway point of the season. Pundits beginning to talk big about the Bucs and their prospects in postseason as far as the Super Bowl is concerned. Is it merited? That's talk that they can go all the way. Is there any credence?
I think there's some credence to it. If you take a look at their current record, that's 6 wins and 2 losses. But also, I think, and most importantly, what they've done is they've brought in some star quality and they've really reinforced this team. So obviously they brought in Tom Brady, but they also brought in Rob Gronkowski as well. Antonio Brown is the most recent addition. And when you've got all that star quality in the team, then you can look at a team, look at their performance and say, realistically, this team is still able to go forward and to actually have title ambitions. So those title ambitions completely warranted.
And if you take a look at the offensive setup, Chris has talked about Gronkowski, he's talked about Brady and Antonio Brown. Those are the names that we know, but they also have Chris Godwin. They also have Mike Evans, good name that one. Ronald Jones II, as well as Leonard Fournette. Barry, this is a team that can challenge the best in the division.
Yeah,
or should I say, in the NFL?
Yeah, that's a team that can challenge the best in the NFL, and I think that what's happened with the Bucs is that they realize that what they require is to have the right sort of quality on the field, both offensively and defensively, and what they're focused on is their offense and make sure that they are able to put points on the board, and points obviously win you matches. So in Tom Brady, they have got a quarterback that is able to almost pluck something out of thin air. Even though he's advanced in age, he's still delivering at the highest level. So when you've got that, you've got Tom Brady in your side, you've always got a chance.
Well, he's delivering at the highest level, Barry. You're quite right, because when I take a look at the 2020 NFL MVP odds. He's actually ranked 4th right now, behind Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, and Aaron Rodgers of the Green Bay Packers, and then Lamar Jackson of the Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens is in 5th place. Chris, Tom Brady playing at a very high level, but the man who's leading the odds right now is Russell Wilson of the Seattle Seahawks. He is the favorite right now because he's putting in shift after shift after shift after shift, and yet we don't hear the media narrative around Russell Wilson. There's more talk around Aaron Rodgers than there is around Russell Wilson. Does skin color have anything to do with it?
A little bit. It has a little bit to do with it. Russell Wilson is also one of those players who generally, when it comes to just how he presents himself, he generally kind of flies under the radar. There's not a lot of scandal around him. There's not the star quality, as it were, hasn't been built up by the media. So in as much as he's putting in shift after shift, he's playing incredibly well. He doesn't have that star quality. The kudos are not bestowed upon him as they should be, even though he's odds-on favorite. But yeah, I think it's also to do with some of the losses that come through. The Seahawks fell to Arizona 37-34 in overtime. And it's games like that will kind of leave a sour taste in the mouth of some of the pundits to say, these are games that we should be winning. Russell Wilson is in that game. Should they perhaps be looking at other people in terms of their MVP?
Well, I guess he'll have to. I mean, I still contend that certainly skin color has something to do with it, because he has to play a lot harder than Aaron Rodgers, than Tom Brady. The game that you've talked about, Chris, where they fell in overtime, plenty of excuses that have been made for Brady, plenty of excuses that have been made for Rodgers, but for a guy like Russell Wilson, he's got to take the ship home. And Barry, just as we wrap up, surprised not to see Cam Newton on that list, because big things were expected of him at the Patriots.
Big things, and now he's also feeling the pressure. I mean, recently we heard him come out and say that he's in fear of losing his job. He was benched against the 49ers. Look, I think it's a case of Bill Belichick saying that everything seems not to be going the way of the Patriots. Right now, their record is 2 wins, 5 losses. They've gone 3 straight losses in a row for the first time since 2002. Those sort of records aren't related in any way to the Patriots, least of all to Bill Belichick, their coach. So in truth, it's a Patriots team that you would want to say is in transition. So I would say yes, rightly so. Leave Cam Newton out of the discussion for now. Let him focus on his game and focus on making the Patriots better.
Well, Cam Newton is certainly going to have his work cut out as the Patriots look to return to winning ways at New York on Monday. If you want to see the GOAT, Tom Brady in action, the Bucs, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they entertain the New Orleans Saints on Sunday.
Hi, my name is Luke Baamute, Los Angeles Clippers small forward, and you're listening to ZiFM Sport.
Around the world in 60 seconds. International sports news.
We take off from the United Arab Emirates, where Aishan Kishan's attacking 55 and 4 wickets by Jasprit Bumrah powered Mumbai Indians to their 6th Indian Premier League final with a 57-run win over Delhi Capitals. The left-handed Kishan put on an unbeaten 60-run partnership with Hardik Pandya, who hit 37 or 14 balls to steer holders Mumbai to 200 for 5 in the first qualifier in Dubai. Delhi could only manage 143 for 8 as Bumrah returned figures of 4 for 14 to lead this season's bowling chart with 27 wickets, as 4-time winners Mumbai sealed a direct entry into the final on the 10th of November. We head over to France, where Rafael Nadal made it 1,001 ATP Tour wins after the Spaniard beat Jordan Thompson to make it through to the quarterfinals of the Paris Masters. A day after becoming the 4th player in the Open era to record 1,000 tour-level wins, Nadal resumed his pursuit of a maiden Paris-Bercy title. The world number 2 saw off a spirited second set fight back by the Australian to claim a 6-1, 7-6 victory. We're just down in Australia ahead of the 4th Bledisloe Cup test tomorrow. Wallaby skipper Michael Hooper admitted his team were in a dark place this week after being thrashed by the All Blacks, but insisted the scoreline didn't tell the full story. New Zealand's 43 7-5 rout in Sydney last weekend was their highest winning margin against Australia and sealed the Trans-Tasman Bledisloe Cup for an 18th straight year with a game to spare. Hooper said the defeat was crushing for the team, coming on the back of a 27-7 loss in Auckland after battling a 16-all draw in Wellington. The fourth and final game is in Brisbane tomorrow, with both teams flying in and out on match day from Sydney due to coronavirus restrictions.
Hi, I'm Clemens Matau, chicken in midfielder. You're listening to ZiFM Sports.
The big leagues, the big teams, the big players. The beautiful game on ZiFM Sport. Horsepower unmatched. Torque to beat the best. Speed unrivaled. Sleek and easy on the eye. Let's get behind the wheel of football engineered to perfection. The Bundesliga, made in Germany.
It's all happening in Germany, so we start right there because it's time for the first Der Klassiker of the season in the Bundesliga, which takes place tomorrow night at the Westfalenstadion, or the Signal Iduna Park, if you prefer. That is, of course, in Dortmund, when Borussia Dortmund hosts the mighty Bayern Munich. I say mighty, and Mike rolls his eyes because I'm a Bayern Munich fan, and Mike and Alois are Dortmund fans. Chris, who do you support in Germany?
I'm a Dortmund fan too.
Oh my goodness, I am surrounded now after 6 Bundesliga games.
Torn, actually.
Oh my goodness, absolutely surrounded. Now after 6 Bundesliga games this season, both Borussia Dortmund and Bayern Munich have won 5 and lost 1, with the defending champions being ahead in the table only on goal difference at the moment. Alois, this is a big game no matter what. But the one thing that we can say about this season is that both teams are scoring goals. So we may just see quite a few goals in the Klassiker.
Exciting times, in the Bundesliga, Perry. This season they are both playing well. German football is exciting when Bayern Munich and Borussia Dortmund are on top of the situation. That rivalry dates back for a long time, from a long time ago, and we have always wanted it. Remember when they both went all the way to the finals of the Champions League? That's what German football was all about. And now they are back to the top again. And like you said, goals. Erling Haaland on the other side. We have got Lewandowski on the other side. We're expecting them to score. They are on top of their game right now. They are animals when it comes to scoring goals, those two. And we just want to see how they fare against each other. This is going to be an exciting match. If it was fans allowed, like always, this was going to be a house full, and I'm telling you, this was one game that can actually be sold out within a few minutes of the tickets going on air.
Yeah, don't we all wish, Chris? Because in truth, the Westfalenstadion is possibly the most atmospheric stadium, possibly in Europe, especially when the Yellow Wall gets going. But tragically, it's behind closed doors. We talk about goals, but in fact, the last game that these two played ended in a 1-0 win for Bayern Munich. Odd.
Odd, but I think you have to also take a look at the fact that these are both teams that defend quite well. So in terms of, in as much as we'd like for two attacking sides to go at it, for us to have lots of goals, that's not necessarily going to be the case all the time. We might get a few surprises, but I think that 1-0 win is just an indicator also of how close these two teams are. In as much as your Dortmund is a significantly younger side, I think they can still go head to head with Bayern Munich.
Bayern Munich.
Barry, Chris mentions a very important thing, that Dortmund is a young side, and so the experiences with Bayern Munich, they've got players that have been doing it for several years. Lewandowski, your Thomas Muller, these are players that are winners. They've won locally, they've won in Europe, they were UEFA Champions League. Some of them are multiple winners of the UEFA Champions League. Manuel Neuer has won a World Cup, so the experience certainly is with Bayern Munich, but the pluck is with Borussia Dortmund, and also they are actually, in terms of the statistics, the best side in defense this season. They've just conceded, I think, a couple of goals in the Bundesliga, isn't it? And so their defense has really been working, and Mats Hummels is fully fit, and he's on top of his game, like we have seen in recent matches. He's a threat either side. He's a very steady defender at the back, and also he's capable of getting on the end of set pieces the other side. So it's going to be a very interesting game. It might not be the high-scoring game that a lot of people are anticipating. This one could be decided by just 1 or 2 goals, but I still think Bayern Munich will be the favorite for this one because of the experience.
Yeah, as you say, Mike, Matt Hummels is outdoing Erling Haaland. He's out Haalanding Haaland because he's scoring goals at a rate of knots for a centre-half. Absolutely impressive. Well, your rest of your weekend Bundesliga fixtures, before we get the predictions of the in-studio team: Werder Bremen entertain Cologne, Union Berlin versus Arminia Bielefeld, Mainz will take on Schalke 04, it is Augsburg versus Hertha Berlin, RB Leipzig entertain Freiburg, Stuttgart versus Eintracht Frankfurt, Wolfsburg versus Hoffenheim, it's Bayer Leverkusen who entertain Borussia Mönchengladbach, and of course the big one for the weekend, Borussia Dortmund versus Bayern Munich. Predictions, Michael?
I'm going with a 2-2 draw.
Oh, sitting on the fence, Michael. Chris?
Yeah, I'm going with a 2-2 draw.
I'm going to go with a 2-1 win for Bayern Munich.
2-1 win for Bayern Munich, said as a true Borussia Dortmund fan. Alois Munjira.
Yeah, but from what I'm looking at, if Borussia Dortmund go all out and do all the running, they will do the business. But if they are cautious and Bayern are cautious, they play a cautious game, they will lose. So I'm looking at them playing an all-out attacking football, and they're winning 2-1. Borussia Dortmund winning. 2-1
to Borussia Dortmund. I'm going for a 3-1 win for Bayern Munich. That might be a bit more of the heart than the head, but still, I'm allowed to say my piece. Let's see how it goes this coming weekend. Der Klassiker in Germany.
All the rivalry.
Here is Harry Kane for Tottenham. Oh, what a goal! A classic derby goal from Harry Kane. Catch him if you can.
All the stars.
Oh, back here's Liverpool 2 in front. Talk about impudence. Talk about improvisation. Talk about Sadio Mane.
And all the game-changing moments.
And Raheem Sterling rattles it home. And once more, City are in front in a trice.
All the updates from the Premier League on ZiFM Sport.
Well, England has said, Germany, if you're going big, we are going even bigger, because it's City versus Liverpool. And former City captain Richard Dunn says that Sunday's match against the Reds is massive and expects it to have significant impact on the Premier League title race. Defending champions and current league leaders Liverpool travel to the Etihad, already holding a 5-point advantage over Manchester City. Let's hear his thoughts.
It's huge. I mean, this game's almost decides the season. The two teams haven't lost a lot of games over the last few years, you know, so they know that the importance of the 3 points in this one is massive. And City will go into it after beating Liverpool last year 4-0, I think it was, but they know that wasn't the real Liverpool side. They'd already wrapped up the league by then, so it's going to be very competitive. And I think for City and obviously for Liverpool as well, they'll understand how big it is. They'll understand that everything up to now has sort of been a warm-up for this game, and the fact that it's not just the result of one game this weekend. This can turn the championship, and this can give you the belief to go on that run to try and build a lead, certainly for City to try and catch up with Liverpool, and it's the players are going to be up for it. The players are going to be really looking forward to it, and it's got the makings of a great game.
Alois, it's almost a similar situation to what happened last season. I think last season Liverpool went with a 7-point lead into the first of their matchups versus City. They managed to win it 3-0 at that time, and they opened up a 10-point gap, of which they never looked back from that 10-point lead over Manchester City, and they closed out the title. City will be aware of what happened last season, and they'll be keen to make sure that Liverpool does not get a sizable lead over them this early in the season.
Yeah, of course, Mike. They know that Liverpool are their number one title contenders and their number one enemies, you know, as far as winning the league is concerned. So they need to keep pace with Liverpool. They can't allow Liverpool to stretch the lead again, you know, because if they lose now, it will be 8 points. 8 points is not a joke when you're looking at a Liverpool team that doesn't lose often. They haven't lost in a long time as well. So, you know, so they know very well that, you know, for them to win the league, they are supposed to be the ones to actually beat Liverpool, because they can't wait for any other team to do it for them. So this is their chance to actually close the gap to 2 points. When it's 2 points, you can go toe to toe, and hopefully in the return leg, then they can also look to beat them. So they know very well that this is their chance, and they can afford to slip up. So this is going to be an exciting match that is going to excite everybody, and all eyes are going to be on this match.
Barry, both sides have suffered the significant injuries this season. For City, Sergio Aguero, Fernandinho, Benjamin Mendy, they've all been sidelined, and I think Gabriel Jesus has only just returned from injury. Liverpool, of course, have got an even longer injury list with a number of key players out. We don't know when Oxlade-Chamberlain is going to return. VVD, Virgil van Dijk, is out for the season. Alisson Becker only recently returned. Naby Keita is only recently returning from injury. Thiago Alcantara is reportedly out. And so these teams, in terms of their squad depths, they're certainly being tested.
Yeah, they are being tested, but you got to say that both teams have got enough strength and depth to still give us an entertaining affair at the very minimum, and at the highest level to give us an encounter that we expect because of that depth that they've got. If you look at Sergio Aguero, you look at Gabriel Jesus, he's going to come in and try and do the job for Manchester City, just as an example. So the replacements are certainly impressive. For the much vaunted defensive crisis that Liverpool is supposed to be in, you look at it, since VVD went out, Liverpool hasn't lost a match. So it's been a good time, a good transition for them to try and buttress or circle the wagons after losing one of their most important players. So both teams in a state of flux, but managing that flux.
With City trailing Liverpool by 5 points, Chris, and Liverpool already leading the way in the English Premier League, who needs this one more? Who wants this one more?
I'm going to say that Manchester City needs this more. Like you already pointed out, Liverpool are 5 points ahead. Manchester City still have quite a bit to prove, I would say, especially in the league. You talked about those injuries. You talked about how inconsistent they have been as well. When it comes down to that, it's matches against Liverpool that almost give a bit of confidence to the fans, to the people who are watching the team, and the players as well. Getting a win over a team like Liverpool right now is something that would give a massive boost to Manchester City. So I think for me, City needs this more, but likelihood is Liverpool will be able to do the business against City.
Big game at the Etihad, but it's not the only one, because it's almost something of a reverse with Everton hosting Manchester United at Goodison Park, because it's Liverpool versus Manchester, and that game is a must-win game for Manchester United, because they've been on something of a downward spiral since the heady highs of beating PSG and RB Leipzig. They've gone on to lose to Arsenal, and they lost to Istanbul Başakşehir in the Champions League, a team that they were expected to beat. So Alois, it's difficult to place United at the moment. Are they going forward? Are they going backwards? Where exactly are they?
You're very right. I don't know where they are. Going forward, backward, I don't even know. One time they beat Leipzig for 5, then they come back and they lose at home. They go and lose to one of the weakest teams in the European Champions League. I don't know what is happening there. And then when you look at the manner they are losing, like Kapoor Scholes said, look at the way they considered those goals, like in Turkey. It was like childish, like it was like a schoolboy defending. I don't know. So I don't know whether it's the coach or it's the players. So we need to figure it out. Are the players not listening to the coach, or the coach is not telling the players, or there is just no communication between the two? We don't know. So for me, I'm not so sure. I will wait until I start seeing Manchester United steady the ship and start heading in some direction. At the moment, they don't have any direction.
No direction for Manchester United, but this is a big game for them, especially at this stage of the season, to see if they can keep up with the teams at the top. Or one of the surprise teams at the top is Southampton, and they can consolidate on their position when they host Newcastle at St. Mary's on the south coast. In other fixtures, Brighton will take on Burnley, who are struggling. Crystal Palace versus Leeds United. Leeds United will be looking to bounce back from that mauling versus Leicester City. Chelsea looking good at the moment. They play Sheffield United in London. West Ham United are also in London. They take on Fulham in a derby. West Bromwich Albion versus Tottenham Hotspur. Tottenham Hotspur looking to carry on their free scoring ways with Bale now an addition in their attacking third. Leicester City versus Wolves in a Midlands derby. And of course, Arsenal will be taking an Aston Villa. But the big games of the weekend, it's City versus Liverpool and United at Everton. Guys, your captain's pick. Who are you choosing for the Fantasy League? Who do you see doing well? I know Alois is going to stick with Harry Kane.
He has been generous. He has given me four. He has been gold.
I would actually advise that because against West Bromwich Albion, that might be a good pick.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I think that's
a good mine.
I was actually going to say that this weekend everybody should follow Alois and go with Harry Kane, because Tottenham Hotspur are scoring goals. Yeah, they might be conceding as well and not necessarily seeing games over the line, but the one thing that you're guaranteed of is Son or Kane are going to be involved in goals that happen for Tottenham Hotspur. So Harry Kane is not a bad pick.
The Nerazzurri, the Black and Blues, Inter Milan.
It's Romelu Lukaku, and it was never in doubt. He's a beast at the best of times, but this season he has become a monster.
The Giallorossi, the Yellow and Reds, AS Roma.
Velotti has a go! Tremendous hits! That's what he's capable of.
La Viola, the Purple Ones, Fiorentina.
Franck Ribéry seals a glorious win for Fiorentina with a sumptuous goal at San Siro.
The Bianconeri, the Black and Whites, Juventus.
Ronaldo seals yet another 3 points for Juventus.
Tough yet colourful, the best of Italian football on Z.
Heading into Italy now for your Serie A preview. Juventus will look to continue their push up the Serie A table when they travel to Lazio on Sunday. Last season, this was a top four clash, but at the moment, only one of these sides occupied those two places, with Juventus currently sitting in third. Mike, we can expect Juventus to pick up a win here, just taking a look at Lazio's form.
Well, one name, Cristiano Ronaldo. He's back, and I think he's going to be a trump card for Andrea Pirlo. What Juventus had been missing in the first few games of the season was they didn't have any teeth up front. So Juventus hasn't lost any games. You know, that's the important statistic that people need to look at, that they actually haven't been defeated in Serie A, primarily because they were not scoring goals. CR7 is back. I expect them to start scoring regularly, and if they score regularly, they'll win matches.
Alois, if you take a look at Juventus' performance, like Mike said, they haven't lost any games. They have drawn 3 out of 5 of the last games. And if you take a look at the way that Juventus is playing good football. What's your summation of this first part of Andrea Pirlo's season as first team manager?
Yeah, I think he has done well for me. You know, when you start as a manager, you're trying to impose your style of play into the team. You are trying to get the teams together to play the way you want, and the fact that they haven't lost. I think as people say that when you are building a team, you start from the back. You want to know that you are not losing matches. Then when you do that, when you succeed, then you start moving forward to start scoring matches. Like Mike said, Cristiano Ronaldo is there. They are containing opponents. They'll start scoring goals. They're good. They're in good shape. And I'll head off to Pirlo. He has done well so far for me.
The rest of your Serie A fixtures this weekend: Sassuolo takes on Udinese, Cagliari versus Sampdoria, Benevento versus Spezia, Parma versus Fiorentina. Lazio will be up against Juventus, like we talked about. Atalanta versus Inter Milan, Genoa against Roma, Torino at home to Crotone, Bologna versus Napoli, and AC Milan, top of the table, take on Hellas Verona.
The league that makes football oh so beautiful, where artistry and strokes of genius are the order of any day, where the game is played with a smile and the little master creates his magic.
It's Lionel Messi!
All the news from the Spanish La Liga on ZiFM Sport.
The goal the world wants it!
In Spain, Barcelona will be hoping they can move into the top half of the La Liga table when they host informer Real Betis. The Blaugrana have not had the best start to life under Ronald Koeman and are currently sitting 12th after 6 games. And also that is primarily Barry, because of the games in hand that they have, but they still are not looking convincing in the way they played. We saw in midweek they won versus the Ukrainian side, Dynamo Kiev, but Dynamo Kiev had enough of a look in to have actually scored a couple of goals.
Yeah, and I think it's largely as a result of, I think we haven't seen the Ronald Koeman team. We haven't seen he's tried to have Dembele and Ansu Fati on the pitch. He's tried not having them there. He's tried all sorts of things, and it looks like he's trying to find his way. Now, that could be a function of the short preseason that was available to him. So he wasn't able to actually find the right combinations in terms of his front three or front four, whichever way he wants to play. So I think that is a big factor in the up and down and patchy performances rather than results that we're seeing out of Ronald Koeman. Hopefully, he'll find a way.
So Barcelona will have their work cut out versus Betis, and no doubt they'll also be keeping an eye on what their arch rivals Real Madrid are doing. Well, they are away at La Mestalla to take on a Valencia side who, on their day, Alois, are capable of beating anyone put in front of them.
Yeah, of course, that's going to be a tough match, Mike, because Valencia are a very tough side. And like you said, that on their day, they can beat anybody. You know, they've been here and there. They get into the top four, they drop out. You know, you never know what team they bring every season, but they are always thereabout in the top half. So they are tough. But the only good thing going for Real Madrid is that they seem to have found a rhythm. They are playing a little bit better, and they are in a better position to actually beat them. So let's wait and see what happens. But I still think that Real Madrid, so far so good, they're good enough to beat Valencia.
Okay, Atletico Madrid, they play Cadiz. Just quickly, Chris, Atletico Madrid unbeaten in La Liga. They're a side that will be harboring real hopes that they can go all the way this season.
Definitely. They've had an incredible start to the season, and just going off of that, if they're able to continue on this really good trajectory, then definitely the title aspirations become alive for them.
Okay, the rest of your fixtures: Elche versus Vigo, Eibar travel to Huesca, Sevilla entertain Osasuna, it's Getafe versus Villarreal, Granada away to Real Sociedad, as are Alaves at Levante, Real Valladolid versus the Athletic Club of Bilbao. If you fancy French football, we always have a report on Tuesday evening. Your key Ligue 1 fixtures are PSG versus Rennes, Strasbourg versus Marseille, Lyon will play Saint-Etienne, the most successful team in France, and Lens entertain Reims.
A quick update of the continent before we head out of today's show, starting with the CAF Champions League. Now, Zamalek will take on Al Ahly in this edition of the CAF Champions League final. That is courtesy of their 3-1 win over Raja Casablanca in the second leg of their match. Of course, they had led 1-0, meaning that it ended 4-1 in an aggregate to Zamalek. Zamalek versus Pitso Mosimane's Al Ahly, the final of the CAF Champions League, this edition, of course. And then in South Africa, MTN 8, second round of the semi-finals. Bloemfontein Celtic take on SuperSport United. The current scoreline is 1-0 out of that first leg. And then Kaizer Chiefs are down 3-0 to Orlando Pirates heading into the second leg. Can they stage what they call in Spain a remontada? I doubt it, because they're struggling to score goals.
Never.
Alois, who asked you? Anyway, so that Alois doesn't chime in anymore, let's end the show. We'll catch you on Monday. Have a great weekend, Zimbabwe. May God richly bless you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Manandi, out.
And it's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
The biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, are top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.